I'd like to talk about how we think, feel, and behave, and how these three things sort of run off each other, if you like. But before we jump into that, I would like to introduce myself. My name is Ghazala. I'm at the Heart and Soul Cafe. If you've been here before, thank you so much for coming back. I so appreciate it. And if you're here for the first time, welcome aboard. So, I'd like to talk about how we think, feel, and behave, and how these three things have a bit of a cyclical, it's a new word, cyclical way of working, okay? Or you could call it, vicious cycle, if you like, if you can't say cyclical. It's a new word I've come across. I thought it was a wonderful word. That's if I could pronounce it. So let's say, for example, you wake up one morning and you have a thought in your head, and that thought is, I am not good enough. I am not good enough. Okay. Now, and we'll talk about where that thought's come from, a little bit in a few minutes, but let's just go from it. So that's your thought. How is that going to make you feel? Well, it's not going to make you feel, you've got a spring in your step that day and you can conquer the world, and it's not going to make you feel like that, is it? It's going to make you feel low. You probably feel low that day. Your mood is going to be low. You're going to possibly feel, like a lack of confidence, a lack of self-esteem. You're going to be sort of doubting yourself, perhaps. Okay, and that's how you're feeling. How is that then going to make you behave? Okay, so you go out into the world. You're not going to be, interacting with others and saying, "Oh, hi, how are you doing?" and engaging and chatting. That's not what you're probably going to be doing with that thought and with that feeling. You are probably going to be isolating yourself a little bit, just keeping your distance from others. You don't really want to engage that day. You're probably not going to make eye contact with people that day. Your body language will be, other than eye contact, you're not going to be giving off those signals that, I'm approachable that day. Yeah. So that'll be another thing. Possibly your posture might be affected as well. You might be sort of a little bit feeling low, and your body sort of reflects that. Whereas usually you're sort of sitting straight up or standing or walking with your shoulders back and your head up. And that's, a sign of confidence and feeling, okay with the world and okay with yourself. So it could be lots of things. And then if let's say if you're behaving that way and you're at work, your colleagues could maybe think, oh, Ghazala's not engaging today. She's sort of a bit keeping herself to herself. Maybe she needs some space. Maybe we should just, honor that and leave her to it. From that, I could then think, well, no one really cares. Well, I'm not surprised that no one really cares, because after all, I'm not good enough, am I? So do you see how it can be cyclical, almost like a vicious cycle, and it sort of comes back to that thought again, and then it's reinforced. Yeah, and it's almost like confirmation bias. You can sort of hold a bias against yourself that, I'm not good enough, and it's proof, because no one really is engaging with me. No one's actually asking me how I am. No one's asked me, if I'd like to sit at their table while they're having lunch or their coffee break, and well, that's the reason. And now I know it's because I'm not good enough. Okay, so this is really what happens to a lot of us. And we can all sometimes experience this. Maybe not quite as, I'm giving you an example there. You could be any negative thought. The other thing that, let's talk about where that maybe stems from. Well, you could ask yourself, who has told me lately around me that I'm not good enough? Who has said that to me? And you'll probably find, more times than not, 99.999%, that no one's actually said that to you. No one's ever said that to you. You are not good enough. So, am I sort of manifesting this in my own mind? Well, yeah, probably. So where's that coming from? Maybe you could question that. So the first thing is to acknowledge that you have a thought. And one of the, actually, before I get onto that, one of the other reasons actually that you might be coming up with that thought yourself, because no one else has said that to you, is that you might be quite busy comparing yourself to others. And we can all get into that. And I think we're all guilty of that, you know, consciously or sort of subconsciously. We're sort of, you know, without even being aware of it, we're comparing ourselves to others, whether it's so-and-so's, you know, smarter than I am, someone is more intellectual in any other way, someone's more artistic, someone's more creative, you know, someone can play an instrument and I can't. And so there's so many things that we can look at and say, well, I don't have this, I don't possess this quality, but others do. But they could maybe be thinking that about you. You know, you're thinking about what you don't have, what qualities you don't have. And that is probably where the I'm not good enough is actually coming from, because you're too busy comparing yourself to others and thinking about all the things that you don't possess. Yeah. But if we're sort of basically expending our energy on things that are all negative, like, you know, I don't do this, I don't have this, I can't do that, I can't, you know, we're too busy doing that. Whereas we're not actually pinpointing the things that we do well. Okay. So what I would say is, when that thought comes into your head, any negative ruminating thought, we are quite habitual creatures, human beings, and we can get into the habit of doing that, of negative thoughts coming up, because your brain has a mind of its own, and thoughts do come into our heads. It's like the inbox in your email. All these emails come in, but it's up to you what you do with them. Yeah, you can either run with one or you can, you know, trash it, bin it, okay, because it's not needed. And that's really what we need to be doing with these thoughts when they do crop up in our minds. We need to sort of grab them by the scruff of the neck and think, well, what are you doing here? You know, because you're not serving any sort of meaningful purpose. You know, me saying to myself, I'm not good enough, has come from somewhere, whether it's just my own doubts, you know, and I've allowed it to manifest. So if I grab that thought, because I'm aware of it when it comes in, and think, what can I replace this with? What can I replace these words with? Okay, so it's almost, I'm getting towards, you know, neuroplasticity. Plasticity. Today must be one of those days where I can't pronounce my words. Get my teeth in. Neuroplasticity is the word. So it's a little bit about that. And I'm not going to edit this. If we were talking face to face, I'd be doing all this, and it's quite human, quite normal to do. Yeah, sometimes your teeth get in the way. So we have got into the habit of saying negative things to ourselves. So we can also get into the habit then of saying positive things to ourselves. And that's really what I'm getting at. So when this negative thought comes into your head, you get it by the scruff of the neck and you say, what are you doing here? Where have you come from? And, you know, you're not doing me any, you're not, you know, there's nothing positive I'm going to get from you. So out you go, bin it, trash it, delete it. You know, if we're talking about emails, delete it, get rid of it. Okay. And then replace it with a positive. I am good enough. I am good enough. I am good enough. And, you know, put it on some Post-it notes and put it around the house, if that helps. I am good enough. Okay. And then think about all the attributes you do have, all the positives you do possess. Okay. if I think about myself, I do a few good, there's a few things that I can do. I do a little bit of sewing, and I sort of taught myself. I remember my mum used to, make all my like dresses when I was younger, because she had 3 boys, and then she had me. So I think she was quite excited about, not having to just go to the, to the store and buy a pair of shorts and t-shirt for her sons. She thought, oh, I can actually make some dresses, and she'd do that. And I think she carried on doing that. Because she was a lovely seamstress, and she sort of taught herself as well. I don't think she actually learned from anyone particularly. And when she passed away, I felt that loss, another loss to losing her. Who's going to make me those little dresses or those little blouses that she used to make? And I sort of taught myself. So yeah. Anyway, I diverge. So do a little bit of sewing. And if I think about it, there's quite a lot of things to do. But I think one of the main things that I could say that I possess the skill of, I feel quite confident, and I can say this confidently, is because of my line of work. When I'm delivering mental health training, I'm counselling, women who've, experienced loss, child loss. All my work, whether it's my charity work, I think I can connect with people quite well, naturally. And I hope you can sort of see that through this video, because it's not a two-way conversation, is it, at the moment? It's me talking to you, through my phone. So, and YouTube is a vessel. But I am quite confident that I can connect with people, and make that meaningful connection, make that, not just connect on the surface, but I think, and my line of work sort of takes me there as well, because we find that, we start sharing what we're experiencing, and others share with you, when you've created that safe space on that platform. So, to hold on to something that you have positive about yourself, write it down. Write it down, put it on a Post-it note. So yeah, you are good enough. And why are you good enough? Just one thing that you are good at, and write that on a Post-it note and put that, it might get on other people's nerves, by the way, just make other people that live in the house, what are these Post-it notes everywhere? So you might think that, but and also, I think get into the habit of, looking in the mirror. Look in the mirror, look at yourself, make eye contact with yourself and say, I am good enough. I am good enough. Okay. And state one of those things that, one of your qualities. Okay. It might be, I believe I am a good wife. I believe I'm a good mother. I believe I am, a good colleague. I believe I'm trustworthy. I believe I'm honest. So whatever that is, I feel that I can connect with people well. So whatever that is, say it to yourself. Say it to yourself morning and night. If you can say it more often than that, then do that. And we are then sort of getting those neurons pathways going of positive thinking. So first of all, be mindful about that. This is what you're doing. This is basically how you're, thinking. And that is then going to have an effect on how you feel, and that's going to have an effect on how you behave. But I've done this myself, and within about 3 weeks of, you might think 3 weeks. Well, it might be quicker than that, longer than that. How long's a piece of string? So there's no time thing on it really. But I found that within a few weeks, I started feeling that there was more positive thoughts coming in. And when there's positive thoughts coming in, you wake up in the morning and you don't have that feeling of, your heart sinking and that ache. And those of you who experience that and that anxious sort of symptom, anxiety, will know exactly what I'm saying when I say that you have that weighty, your heart's sort of heavy and and it's sort of sinking feeling, and that's not a nice feeling. And I have experienced that, but I've tried to work against it, and working against it starts from what's up here. What am I thinking, and analysing that. I do, because I'm grieving my son. It's something that I deal with every day, so I do check in on, what am I thinking, what are my feelings today, And I usually wake up in the morning, and my feeling, if my feeling is heavy here, if it's heavy on my heart as I wake up, then I will check in with what's causing that. It's usually something that I'm thinking. Okay, and can I do something about that? Can I help myself with that? Is it something that's out of my control? And obviously, grieving is something that's out of your control. Your grief is, the intensity of your grief reflects the love that you feel for the person that you've lost. So it's a natural thing. It's a natural thing that we're feeling, and not beat ourselves up about it. It's a natural response. So that's something that we can't really control. But what we can control is making sure that other things in our lives and other things that we are, allowing to come in, those emails into our inbox, we're sort of clearing those out. We're binning and deleting the ones that we don't need, that aren't, going to serve as any kind of meaningful purpose, and are just going to add to our symptoms of grief, and we don't want that. So, we need to sort of deal with those. Okay. So that is then going to, you'll find within a couple of weeks that you start feeling better, because you're thinking more positively. Okay. You're concentrating on the positives, not on what you don't have, not on the negatives. That's then going to affect how you feel, and then it's going to affect how you behave, how you show up in the world, how you show up at work, how you show up in social gatherings, and how you show up as a mother, as a father, as all your other relationships, and what you can give there. Because how you think, if it's going to be negative, affects how you feel. How are you going to give anything positive out to the world, or invest in any kind of positive sort of time and moments in your relationships? How is that going to happen if things just aren't good here? So I hope this content of this video has been helpful. It's something that I've done, and I do every so often. I go back there because life is forever moving, and it's fluid, isn't it? It's not fixed. It's not that I've got to a place where I found my meaning and purpose after my loss, and this is how it is, and this is how it's going to be for the rest of my life, because I've got all sorts of environmental factors going on, which is going to shake me every so often. Even if I feel that I'm pretty sturdy, well, other things might just push me over, and then I've got to sort of try and stand up again and try and deal with things again. Okay. I hope you found the content of this video helpful. Please do comment. Please do subscribe, because I do want to build up numbers. I want to build up this community. It's something that I really want to do. I'm not going to back off, actually. Even if no one watches these videos, I'm still going to carry on making content, because I believe in it. I believe in myself, which is the first thing I've got to do. How is anyone else going to believe in me if I don't believe in myself? So I do. I know that, my content is coming from my heart, sincerely, wanting to help others in my son's name. And that's it, really. I'm pretty much an open book. So if you ask me questions, I'll be able to answer them, because, as I say, I am pretty much an open book. Thank you. I hope to see you again in the next video. Until then, look after your hearts and souls.